Welcome everyone. Today's topic is how to identify the best and hottest flipping markets. Okay, about 2.5 years ago, we bought our first property and we wanted to do a flip. Guess what? That didn't go well the way we expected it to go. So we bought the property in a non-flipping market. Not only that, but we overpaid for the property. And on top of that, the rehab went over budget. So you can imagine we could not sell the property. And up until today, that does not cash flow at all. So I want to make sure that none of you go through the same mistakes. I want to make sure that you can all invest in the right flipping market. So the first thing that you need to do is when you're thinking about flipping, you need to make sure that the market, the neighborhood where you are going to buy the property supports flips. Yes, that's correct, because there are many markets that are not flipping markets, which means that they might be great for buy and hold, but they might not be great for flipping. So the next question is, what makes a great flipping market? Okay, what would you say makes a great flipping market? There is one thing that is going to make a neighborhood, a place, the best flipping market, and that's called months of housing supply. So what does that mean, months of housing supply? What it means is that you need to have or find a neighborhood where properties sell very, very fast, okay? So months of housing supply needs to be below 2 months. So what does that mean? Let's rewind a bit. What it means is that let's assume that there are 100 properties in the market today, let's say in Mount Prospect. How long would it take before all those properties are gone, are sold? So the quicker they move, the quicker they sell, the better the flipping market is. So when you go into a market where the months of housing supply is less than 2, so it's going to take 2 months before all the inventory runs out, assuming there are no new properties entering the market, okay? So that makes a great flipping market. Months of housing supply. Very few people pay attention to this. They just get super excited and they buy a property and they say, well, I don't know what to do, maybe buy and hold or flip. And then they say, well, I'm gonna do a flip. Well, there are markets where months of housing supply is like over 6, which means that you're gonna sit on that property for market time over 6 months, plus rehab at 2-3 months. So you're gonna sit on that property for over 8-9 months. So you're gonna be losing money. So now, how do we find out the months of housing supply? Super important. So I'm going to quickly show you here in ChicagoDealVault, we have analyzed over 350 areas. So I'm just going to randomly pick, for instance, Arlington Heights, okay? And I'm just going to focus on months of housing supply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down to the sales market analysis in the report, okay? I just want you to understand what we're talking about. Okay, right here, months of housing supply, that's what we're talking about. So look at this, attached, that means single condos, townhomes, duplexes, and detached are single family homes, okay? So right here, Arlington Heights, months of housing supply is less than 2 for condos, duplexes, so it's a great flipping market, okay? Now, 2.6 for single family homes is not too bad, okay? But look at this, less than 2 months, you're gonna be able to sell your flip. That makes a great flipping market, months of housing supply. Now, if you wanna know the details more about what it means is, we take the number of active listings and divide that by the absorption rate. Now, what is absorption rate? Is how quickly properties sell in the last 12 months. So let's assume the absorption rate is 30 in Arlington Heights. In this case, 39. So what it means is that they sell close to 40 properties every single month, okay? So now, that doesn't tell you much unless you know how many active listings there are. So that makes the months of housing supply the key indicator for you to identify whether it's a great flipping market. Okay, so we're looking at 192. Okay, so let me just give you an example of property that we flipped, but it's not because we were thinking, should we buy and hold, should we flip? We didn't do the any, miny, mo, grab a tiger by the, no, we didn't do that. So we went to the data. So I'm gonna pull up a property that it's 4722 South Kidville. Okay, this property is in Chicago, right? So when we bought the property, we didn't know what to do. We knew we bought it for a great price. So we bought it for 120,000. Okay, we knew this property was worth about 230 to 250. We ended up selling the property for 230. Okay, as a flip. But before we do that, we just wanted to secure the deal. Okay, to buy the property for 120,000. So we were buying the property 100,000 below ARV. Not only that, the rehab was about 2025. So it was light, very cosmetic rehab. So now the question is, what made us do a flip? So the first thing that I did is, this property is in Archer Heights. Okay, so I went to the area reports and I looked for that neighborhood. Okay, Archer Heights. That is in Chicago. So I'm going to show you where that is. That is near Midway. So I'm going to show you the geographic location, Archer Heights. So right here is Midway. As you can see, the runway on the right, Archer Heights. So my first question was, should I buy and hold or fix and flip? So I went straight to the months of housing supply. Okay, I just didn't want to see anything else but the months of housing supply. So I'm going to scroll down. Months of housing supply was 1 month. Okay, can you imagine that? So my thinking was, really, what you're telling me is that if I rehab the property and then I put it on the market, it's going to take 1 month for us to make a profit. Seriously. So the rehab is going to be like 3 weeks plus 1 month of market time. So we're talking about 2 months that we can turn around and make like $60,000. I was like, whoa, we're doing a flip on this property. Sure enough, let me show you the history on this property. So we sold it for 230 right here. And then it lasted, I'm going to show you the details. It lasted 3 weeks or 22 days on the market. So sure enough, Archer Heights, it's an incredible flipping market in the city of Chicago, okay? Because if you have a property, a single family home in this neighborhood, this is super, super hot for single family homes. It's gonna sell like hotcakes in less than a month, okay? This is what most investors do not understand and they miss, right? So they get super excited. Oh yeah, I'm gonna flip this property and then I'm gonna make a great profit. Well, don't go so fast, right? I'm gonna show you some other neighborhoods. For instance, okay, no sound. Okay, can you hear me now? Perfect. Sorry. Glad you. So what I wanted to show you is the months of housing supply. Perfect. Thank you. So in Archer Heights, I'm just going to rewind a bit to make sure that you understood everything that we said. Archer Heights, when we bought this property for 120,000, we knew it was a great deal. However, we didn't know what strategy we needed to take. So what we did is we went to the area reports. I looked up Archer Heights, and look at this. Months of housing supply was 1 for single family home. So what it means is that assuming there's no new inventory coming into the market, it's going to take 1 month before you run out of inventory in our supply. So it's super, super hot, okay? So we knew we wanted to do a flip for that property. So as I show you in the history, it took 3 weeks, like the report said, for us to make 60,000 on this property. Okay, so the rehab took about 3-4 weeks plus market time. So we're talking about 2 weeks altogether, and we made about 60,000. Obviously, after discounting all the carrying costs, holding expenses. So it is that critical for you to understand the months of housing supply. So I'm gonna repeat what it means. What it means is that a market or a neighborhood that has a very low, less than 2 months of housing supply makes it a great flipping market. So it means that in less than 2 months, all the inventory that is for sale is going to be gone. Okay, so that's what you want. A great flipping market means that properties are going to sell super fast. Okay, super important. Now, in the audience, are there any markets that you are curious about and you want to know if there are flipping market? So, for instance, let's pull up another one, Bolingbrook, or let's pull Cicero. Okay, we bought a property. We bought a couple of properties in Cicero. Now, let's look at the months of housing supply. Okay, let's scroll down to the sales market analysis. Right here, months of housing supply. Look at these. For condos, townhomes, it's going to be less than a month. For single family homes, it's going to be about 2.5 months to flip the property in Cicero. So I would say that anything below 2, it's a great flipping market. So Cicero is in the borderline, okay? But keep in mind, there are some areas. Let's go out into the suburbs, okay? What about Flossmoor? If you have any other areas, please send them via the chat, okay? So Flossmoor, Cook County, let me pull up the report and look at the months of housing supply. So how quickly can we run out of inventory that is for sale, assuming no new properties are coming into the market? So let's scroll down and see these. So months of housing supply, this is a perfect example, 5.2. So it's going to take you 5.5 months market time for you to sell a property in Flossmoor. You heard me right, okay? Now, what does that mean? What it means is that you're gonna sit on the property for at least 8 to 9 months. And that's gonna be driven by when you put the property on the market. So think about this. If you put the property on the market, let's say in October or September, October, guess what? It's winter, fall, winter time. So you're gonna sit with the property for the remaining of the winter, plus add 5 to 6 months. So you're talking about at least 9 months market time, plus rehab time. So you are looking at about a year before you flip a property in Flossmoor. It is that simple. So you see how powerful information is? Imagine if somebody came to you and said, hey, you know what? I've got a great deal in Flossmoor. Let's flip it. You're going to say, well, hold on a second. Let me check the months of housing supply, because I want to make sure that if we're going to partner up on a flip, we're going to be in and out as fast as we can, okay, on the flip. So you come here, you look up the area, and you find out 6 months, 5.5 months, plus rehab time. And then it depends when we put the property on the market, we might sit on this property for at least a year. Thanks, but not thanks. Now, you may wonder why there are some markets that it takes forever to sell. Well, Flossmoor in particular, taxes are very high. So taxes are a deal breaker, okay? Because pretty much it's money down the drain, right? And that can kill your cash flow. So that's one of the reasons why, for instance, Flossmoor, but every village is different, right? So you've got to come and check the months of housing supply. Now, I'm going to check on the chat and see if you put any other. Okay, Melrose Park, Park Forest. So let's quickly check Melrose Park. Okay, I think that Melrose Park it's a great flipping market if I remember. Melrose. Okay, so Melrose Park. Let's check it out. So somebody comes to you and say, okay, let's partner up on a flip in Melrose Park. The first thing that you need to say is, well, wait a minute, let me check the months of housing supply. Melrose Park is less than 2 months. Awesome. So Melrose Park, it's a hot area for flips. If you get a great deal, this is telling you that it's going to stay in the market for less than 2 months. So absolutely, Melrose Park. Somebody else said Forest, oh, Park Forest. Okay, so let's check out Park Forest. Okay, Park Forest. Park Forest. Let's find out about Park Forest. And we're doing this exercise so that you get a feel for it. Okay, so we're doing it live. So somebody comes to you and say, well, let's do a flip on Park Forest. Let's find out months of housing supply. Let's go down right here. Months of housing supply, 6 months. What would you do? No, I would say be very cautious about Park Forest. It's going to take you 6 months of market time. And if it's a condo townhome, it's going to take you even longer, 7 months. So think about this. You put the property in the market in maybe January, February, you're going to lose at least 2 months, plus 6 or 7, 9 months, plus the rehab. You're going to be losing a lot of money in holding and carrying cost. Okay, so I would say this is absolutely a no for flipping. Okay, super important, because this can kill your profit. So let me tell you, if you're thinking about flips, you need to get 3 numbers down, like to the penny. I'm going to tell you what those are. Number 1, accurate ARV, after repair value. So once you make all these repairs, how much can you sell the property for? Okay, number 1. Number 2, rehab estimate. How much are you going to spend on the rehab? Okay, super important. And number 3, how much are you going to pay for the property? If you get any of those 3 numbers wrong, you're going to lose money. In my personal opinion, flips are very risky because of the same reason. Okay, if you miss any of those 3 numbers, boom. So let me tell you, ARV, that's easy to compute. We're going to compute that for you. We help you with that. Estimate for the rehab, usually you need to have a cushion, right? And then what's super critical when you do flips, you've got to make sure that you do a light to medium rehab, less than 40,000. Why? Because we are investors. We're not rehabbers. The money is not in rehabbing. Otherwise, all contractors would be super wealthy, right? But it's not the case. You've got to focus on investing. You've got to be in and out of the project. So please don't take rehabs. Any project that the scope of work is over 50,000, take a pass, because it's going to take you over 6 months to turn that around. Okay. And then the next number is, how much should you pay for the property? It's a formula, very simple. You're going to take the ARV, you're going to multiply that times 70%, and I'm going to put that on the chat, okay? So your maxed allowed offer should be your ARV times 70%, and then you're going to subtract the rehab. Okay, so now let's quickly analyze this. What does that mean? Why are we multiplying the ARV times 70%? Very simple. 20% is your profit. If you're doing a flip, you better make 20% return. Otherwise, forget it. So what does that mean? If you're going to buy a property for 100,000, you're going to put in 50,000, all in 150, and let's assume that the ARV is 200,000. Okay, so if you sell the property for 200,000, you have to make 20% return, okay? That is 40,000. So always, so 20% is your return, okay? And then the other 10% is going to be your carrying costs. That's why we multiply these times 70%. And then you need to subtract your rehab. So let's assume the ARV on the property is 200,000 ARV. So we're going to multiply that times 70. So that is 140K, okay? Now we need to do the rehab, and the rehab minus the rehab is going to be, let's say, 40,000, 40K. So the most we should pay for this property is 100,000. Very, very simple, okay? So the rule of thumb is you've got to have a spread of at least 100,000 to do a successful flip. Again, I'm going to put it on the chat. Super, super important. You need a spread of 100,000 for a flip. Okay, so what it means is your purchase price is 100,000 plus 100,000 spread. Therefore, your ARV should be at least 200K. Okay, I just put it on the chat. Very simple. So let's assume that you buy a property for 150,000. It's your price for 250, and the rehab should be less than 40,000. Super, super important. Okay. Another question is, aren't you paying higher costs to buy in a hot market, less unit available? So yes, absolutely. If you are in a hot market, it's going to be more difficult, more challenging to find a great deal. But there are hundreds of deals. I mean, we're getting 500 to 1,000 off-market bank-owned properties a week. Wouldn't you think that you're going to find at least one great deal a week? Absolutely, even if it's in a great neighborhood. Like right now, we're in Mount Prospect. It's an A- neighborhood. We bought a property right across the street for 160,000. ARV is close to 300,000 on that property, and we put in about $33,000. Okay, so our spread is over 100,000, and we found it in ChicagoDealVault on their bank-owned properties. So yes, it's more challenging, but if you have access to the right data, you win. Okay. Let me see if there are any other questions. So I just want to make sure that you fully understand what I said. So I'm going to repeat what you need to understand for flips. If you're thinking about flipping, you need to be in a flipping market, and the flipping market is driven by the months of housing supply. What does that mean? What it means is that how long would it take before all the inventory for sale runs out? So if it's 2 or less, it's an awesome flipping market. So it's going to take 2 months for you to sell your flip. Okay, that's simple. Now, to do a successful flip, you need to have 3 numbers down to the penny: ARV, rehab, and max allowed offer. ARV, you need to pull comps. Rehab, we're going to give you a scope of work, detailed scope of work, so that you can do a scope of work in less than a minute. Okay, it's already pre-filled for you. And then max allowed offer, how much should you pay for the flip, for the property? Remember, ARV times 70% minus rehab. Okay, that should be your max allowed offer. There's a question on the line. Where do you get the data for bank-owned properties? Oh, we have a partner. We have several sources. So let me show you where we get it from. Shadow Inventory, Target. We get it on a weekly basis. Right now, this week, we got 529 properties. So these are bank-owned properties that we can pull from the back door. All these properties are going to go to the auctioning platforms like auction.com, hubzu.com. Guess what? In about a week or so, we can pull them from the back door, even if people already started bidding on these in the auctioning platforms. Okay, when you have access to this type of inventory in ChicagoDealVault. So you need a yearly membership to be able to buy bank-owned properties directly from the banks, okay? So we have a direct contact in Texas, Jacob, asset manager, that allows us to buy any bank-owned property directly from the bank. It is that simple, okay? So we've been able to find incredible deals, okay, from this inventory. Again, about 500 to 1,000 properties per week, okay? So when you buy a property with a lot of equity, you could do a flip, you could do a rental, you could wholesale, you could do anything. The only thing is that on this type of inventory, you do need to follow through and buy it, okay? You cannot wholesale this inventory. You've got to close on it, and then you can do whatever you want with it. Now, the question is, what should you do during the pandemic or in the next 6 to 12 months? Should you flip? Is that the question? So the answer is, if you're thinking about flipping, be extremely cautious, because in this pandemic is not the time to flip. And the reason why is because there's going to be a huge wave of distressed properties coming into the market through pre-foreclosures, foreclosures. Why? Because of unemployment being so high, 25%, because of forbearance. Actually, the second wave of forbearance is going to end by spring 2021. So you're going to see a huge spike increase in foreclosures. So all that inventory coming into the market is going to bring property prices down. So property prices are going to continue to drop in the next 12 to 24 months, up to 20%. So pre-COVID, a property that was worth 100,000 in 12 to 24 months might be worth 70, 75,000. Okay, so doing a flip is very risky. Why? Because next year, by the time you put the property back on the market, your ARV won't be as accurate. It's going to be about 5 to 10% less than what you estimate today. Okay, super important. Also, flips. When you do a flip, you're always running on the treadmill. So what does that mean? That you make a quick profit, but you need to start all over again. You need to find the deal, do the rehab, and sell it. So you're not building wealth when you do flips. Wealth is built in real estate by owning rentals. That's simple. So when you do a flip, you make good profit, but guess what? Another drawback of flips is that they trigger a tax event. So you're going to be taxed on your net gain by the government. So if you're making 60,000, that's before taxes. You've got to pay taxes on that net gain, and that might bring you to a higher tax bracket. Okay, so that can have tax consequences at the end of the year or during tax season. So that's something that you need to be aware of. So right now, we're not doing any flips. Why? Because property prices are going to come down due to unemployment and the huge wave of distressed properties coming back into the market. Second, flips are too risky. ARV, you need to have to the penny, rehab, and then pay the right price. If you overpay for the property, that's going to tap into your net gain. So be very cautious about flipping right now. You should be focusing on rentals and wholesales. But just for today's topic, I want to make sure that if you're considering flips, you have to make sure that you're in a flipping market where the months of housing supply is less than 2 months, and that you're buying a property for under 250,000. So that is super important, okay? Bigger doesn't mean more money. As part of ChicagoDealVault network, we have a couple of big flippers, okay? And I've talked to them. They've came to the conclusion that bigger is not better. Bigger means bigger problems, bigger risk, less money, okay? So you've got to focus on simple, easy transactions, simple, boring, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, no basement flips, okay? Don't try to do second additions or changing layouts, because again, you're not a rehabber, contractor, or you don't have a construction company, okay? You're an investor, okay? Therefore, if you're gonna do flips, stay under 250,000, okay, to be able to be in and out of the property. There's another question on the line. Can you double close on a banked-on property and immediately resell the property? Um, yeah, you could double close on a banked-on property if you don't want to rehab it yourself. Yeah, absolutely. So you can double close on the property. Absolutely, Valerie. Great question. So again, I want to make sure that you are aware of the overall flipping strategy in this pandemic is not recommended, or if you decide to do it, make sure that you do it cautiously, okay? Because you can lose money. Already before COVID, I was not comfortable with flips, okay? Because again, you've got to do a great rehab under budget, you've got to buy it for the right price, and you've got to sell it for what you think you want to sell it for. If any of those factors don't come in where they need to come in, that's going to tap into your net profit. And again, you've got to make at least a 20% return on your flip. If you sell it for 100,000, you've got to make 20,000. Very simple. Okay. Are there any other questions on the line? So you may wonder, well, how do I find these flipping markets? Because I don't want to look each city by city. Well, look no more, okay? Because what we came up with the top flipping markets, and we've done it in the suburbs and in the city. Not only that, but we've done it by property type for condos, townhomes, and also for single family homes. So we know where the top flipping markets are for single family homes in the city or in the suburbs, and vice versa. We also know the top flipping markets for townhomes in the suburbs and in the city. So let me just give you an example. Skokie, okay? Skokie is the top flipping market for townhomes, condos, okay? 177 flips is just insane. The second best flipping market in the suburbs is Oakland. The third is Arlington Heights, Lombard, Oak Park, Buffalo Grove. These are all for condos, townhomes, duplexes, okay? And the reason why is because the months of housing supply is super low. So the minute you put a property in the market, boom. So let's check out Downers Grove, for instance. Let me just give an example. So if somebody comes to you and say, hey, do you want to do a flip in Downers Grove for a condo? What are you going to say? You're going to say all day long, absolutely. Let's partner up. Why? Let me show you the months of housing supply for Downers Grove. Right here, months of housing supply is 1.64. So month and a half, you're gonna have your property sold. Okay, so super important. Downers Grove, it's an amazing flipping market. Not only that, this is an A market. Downers Grove, if I show you the area in a nutshell, the livability score is over 80, so 85. Anything over 80, it's an A area. So it's a very desirable area where you have low crime, great schools, great employment, and then flips are happening every single day. Okay, so that's a great market. So we're going to give you this spreadsheet for the top flipping areas, and then we have the same for the city of Chicago, right? So number one flipping area in Chicago is Loop. Near South Side is the second best flipping market, okay, in the city, near downtown, near shore. So we have a list of all the top flipping markets. Also, we have split those by county. So we want to make sure that you have all these data, so by county. So for instance, right here, we're gonna go into, this is Kane County. So what are the top flipping markets in Kane? Aurora number one, South Elgin number two, okay? Now let's pull up Lake. What about Lake? What are the top flipping markets? Buffalo Grove stands at number one flipping market, Highland Park, Vernon Hills, Lake Forest. Now keep in mind, Some of these areas are going to be super expensive, like for instance, Lake Forest, Highland Park. So remember, you've got to do flips for less than 250,000. Okay, anything over that is extremely risky, especially in this economic contraction. So be very cautious. Remember, stay within below 250,000 price range for your flip. Okay, so we're gonna make sure that we make all of these McHenry. What's McHenry's number one? Crystal Lake. We own a few properties in Crystal Lake, so that's number one. Algonquin, Lake in the Hills. So we're gonna tell you the areas that have the best, that are the best flipping markets. So I don't want you to think, worry, do more research. You're gonna have this information at the tip of your fingers. Should you decide to do a flip, okay? Are there any other questions on the line? Why is it red? Oh, okay, so we mark it red because that makes it like the top market. So let me show you. So this is top rated one, okay? So these are like really top markets in Lake County. Buffalo Grove, Highland Park, Vernon Hills. So we rate them by area type. These are all great areas, but among all of these, we're putting Buffalo Grove as number one. Okay, so but these are all A areas. So now, can high taxes affect your flip? Absolutely, Jeff. So the example that I gave is Flossmoor, right? So Flossmoor has very high taxes. Therefore, the properties are going to sit in the market for a long, long time, 5, 6, 7 months, because taxes in these neighborhoods are somewhere in like 800 to 1,000 a month. So it is just super, super expensive. That kills all the numbers. So yeah, absolutely, taxes is a deal breaker for rentals and for flips. Absolutely. So something that you have to be cautious. Even if, let's say, I give you a top rental market, let's say Buffalo Grove, please double check taxes. Okay. Every village is different, but just make sure that taxes are below 8,000. Okay, for a single family home, anything over 8,000 is going to be a deal breaker. Keep that in mind. For taxes, anything over 8,000 is going to be a deal breaker. Okay, there's another question. What is the best way to wholesale in Illinois because of the new law? Okay, so the best way to wholesale in Illinois is to get your license. Without a license, you can do one wholesale every 12 months. Once you have a license, you can do as many as you want. But listen, we can refer you to an investor-friendly brokerage who can help you do the wholesales for you. What you need to focus on is getting a great deal on the contract. Once you have that, believe me, there are going to be people who want to partner up with you, who can fund the deal for you, who can help you wholesale the property, but focus on finding a great deal, okay? Because don't try to go out and get your license if you're thinking about doing flips. Focus on getting a great deal on the contract as number one priority. Then licensing comes, but just keep in mind, to do wholesaling, you've got to have a license in Illinois. That is to prevent or to protect the public, right? Because before, many people who were unlicensed were deceiving the public, were selling properties to the public for a lot higher than what they were worth. So people were losing a lot of money. There were a lot of complaints. Unfortunately, those wholesalers were not regulated by the state because they didn't have a license. That is why now you need to get a license. Great question. Are there any other questions regarding the flipping markets? So let's just quickly summarize before we wrap up. I want to make sure that you have a really clear understanding. Right now is not the time to do flips because property prices are going to adjust in the next 6 to 24 months, up to 20% drop, okay, in prices. So doing a flip is extremely risky right now in this pandemic. Not only that, but when you do flips, you're still running on the treadmill. If you stop doing flips, you stop making money. Third drawback is that dealing with contractors is one of the biggest headaches that investors have. So when you are doing a lot of flips, you're gonna have a lot of headaches. Number 4 drawback, flips trigger a tax event. So you're gonna need to pay taxes on your net gain, or that net gain is gonna put you at a higher tax bracket and you're gonna end up paying more taxes. Number 5, you need to have 3 numbers down to do a successful flip. ARV correct, rehab under budget, and the max allowed offer. So you should not overpay for the property. What's the right price to pay for a flip? You need to take the ARV, multiply that times 70% minus the rehab. That's the max you should pay for a property. Okay, now where should you do a flip? Not in any market. It has to be in a market where the months of housing supply is less than 2 months, which means that you're going to be able to sell your property in less than 2 months. There are areas that the months of housing supply is over 6, like Flossmoor. So stay away from those areas, please, should you decide to do a flip. So that's just a quick summary of today's presentation. Let me answer some questions on the line. As far as rentals, what would you suggest as the first property to buy and hold? 3 flat, single family home. Ronald, we started with single family home for rentals. So you can start with single family home, or I love multi-units, 2 to 4, because you can live in one and rent out the other ones and end up living for free. So I love multi-units for cash flow. So I would say if you have the resources, I would start with something small, like a 2 flat. If not, start with a single family home, small. Okay, start small. Next, won't be difficult to find properties less than 250 in some of those Lake County neighborhoods. Believe it or not, no, you should be able to find some great deals, but I'm talking about detached, meaning condos, townhomes, duplexes, okay? Because in these A neighborhoods, you cannot touch a single family home for less than 300,000-400,000, right? So you need to stick to condos, townhomes, duplexes to do a flip, because they're gonna sell very fast. People wanna move into those areas and they can't afford a single family home of 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, but they can afford a townhome. So if you are thinking about flips in those Lake County neighborhoods, you better do it on a townhome, duplex. That'll be your best bet. Okay. Another question, can you tell me about Streetville and Gold Coast for flipping? So Streetville, let's look it up. Streetville, I don't know if this is a neighborhood. Let's look it up. Or Gold Coast. Is that part of Loop? Is that part of the Loop? So we have Loop. So Loop is going to be like #1 for flips. Yeah, Loop. So properties are going to sell super Streetville. Yeah, absolutely. Streetville and Gold Coast. I mean, they're super great flipping neighborhoods. So let me show you why. Population growth, it's through the roof, as you can see in the Loop, over 100%. So people are moving into downtown. Why? Because of employment. And then let's look at months of housing supply in the Loop. I mean, they sell so fast. Okay, we know the Loop is in here. We have in the spreadsheet, the Loop is top flipping market. Okay. Another question is part of the near north. Yeah, absolutely, near north. I was just showing that spreadsheet of the top flipping markets right here. So right here, you see Chicago downtown, near right here, near West Side, near North Side. So these are top flipping markets with over 350 flips. So absolutely, it's a top flipping market. Obviously for condos, okay? How accurate are these numbers? How often? So we update these numbers every other month. So we run algorithms behind the scenes to update all these numbers. So every other month we update every single area. So super accurate, okay? Are there any other questions before I give you free access? So if you don't have access to all this information, make sure that you get it free. access to DealVault for the next 30 days. So fill out that form, select for the package right here, special Chicago DealVault, special Chicago DealVault, and then the promo code is flip, okay? Get it free for 30 days, okay? And then we're gonna train you unlimited training via Zoom, okay? And you can schedule training once you have access to the system. On the system, on the upper right-hand corner, there's a schedule training right here, button in green, that you can schedule as many trainings as needed. Yeah, there's a session on Sunday, absolutely, 1 p.m., Debbie. So thank you everyone for joining. I'm gonna remain on the line for the next couple of minutes just to answer any questions, but I hope this was very informative for you to have a better idea on flipping markets and what it takes to do a successful flip, okay? So I look forward to seeing you all on Sunday at 1 p.m. So we're gonna be talking on Sunday about, let me pull up the list of events. So Sunday, finding real estate hot markets in, yeah. So we're gonna have Frank Montrose as the guest speaker. So he's gonna be talking about the new upcoming trends when it comes to hot markets overall, rental and flipping. So make sure that you join Sunday, 1 p.m. So thank you everyone for joining. So I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Make sure that you join Sunday. We have a special guest, Frank Montrose. And please make sure that you get access to all this information. If you still don't have access, again, you're gonna get it for free for the next 30 days. So the package should be special Chicago DealVault, okay? And the promo code is FLIP. So thank you everyone for joining, and please send us an email to support@chicagodealvault.com to get the top flipping markets spreadsheet, okay? So again, thank you everyone for joining, and I look forward to seeing you all on Sunday.